This is a vintage 1986 Italian Bottecchia steel road bike, and I'm going to turn it from trash to treasure. I picked this up for just £190 and I'm going to completely restore it to its former glory and teach you how to do that along the way. I'm going to fix everything on this bike, the paint, the bearings, remove any rust, sort the components out, remove this grubby bar tape, and I'm going to do this on a budget because in a world where seemingly 10 grand super bikes are everywhere, I'm determined to show people that cycling doesn't have to cost the earth, and there are loads of incredible vintage classic bikes out there that with a little bit of work can be turned into something truly special. And being a 1986 frame, once this is restored, it will qualify as a Leroyka bike. So what is this bike? Well, as mentioned, it's a Bottechia, a 989 from 1986. A beautiful Italian frame made from Columbus tubing, the badge is there, with really nice lugs on it. I really like it. And the previous owner actually had this bike from new and was riding it right up until a couple of months ago. So it's had a proper life, nearly 40 years. And oh, I love to see that, a bike that's been properly used. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Bottechia as a brand, because they are a smaller brand these days, they actually do have a pretty incredible history. So the name comes from Ottavio Bottecchia, who was actually the first Italian to win the Tour de France back in 1924. His life story is actually incredible and it's too much for me to go into here. It's actually worthy of like a Hollywood film. It's so incredible with the First World War and everything. It really is a brand though with a lot of heritage, and there's a lot of really nice things that I love on this. So we've got the head tube badge here. It's like an old classic car badge. I really like that, it's really cool. The lugged fork is also interesting. So the 989 was produced throughout the 80s and then into the early 90s as well. Later ones have the one-piece fork design, and that was a trend that came in with bikes of that period. Rather than a lugged fork, it was lighter and it was also a bit cheaper to produce for manufacturers as manufacturing methods improved. But I like that it's got these lugs, and I really like the Bottechia B that's on the lug there. Now the paint is suffering. It's flaking off in places and quite a bit, but underneath it you can see that we've got that chromed Columbus tubing, which is good because you can see it's not rusted, which is nice. But we're going to fix all the paint on this bike and completely restore that. That's probably going to be the biggest job, but I'm really excited to do it. The components tell a very interesting story of the long life this bike's had. So the shifters are original on here. So they are Shimano 105 from 1986. So the 1986 group set of the people, love that. And they've got the brake cables internally routed along the bar, which, well, a lot of group sets prior to that, you know, in the 70s had brake cables that came out the side of the brake levers. So that's nice. I think these gear shifters on the down tube, I think they might be original as well, but I'm not entirely sure. What's definitely not original though are a lot of the other components. So the rear derailleur, which would have been 86 105 originally, and the chainset have been replaced. They're now derailleur, which is not true to the time period, so that will come off. But it shows that as parts have worn out, the owner has replaced them and kept the bike running, which I love to see that. So we're going to take all those bits off, and I'm going to find some suitable replacements by hunting around online. The good thing is about these old group sets of this period, they're a lot cheaper than what you think. So something like Campag Chorus or Shimano 600 of this era, you can actually find some pretty good bargains out there. So I'm going to get hunting for those. The wheels are Mavic Open Pros rims, and they're built up onto some old Shimano hubs. With some, what are these tyres on there? Schwalbe Blizzards, so they're new tyres with red on them, but 23mm super narrow, they're changing, we're getting rid of those. We'll get something vintage looking good on there. But let's do a Freehub sound check of this, because I really want to see what it sounds like. Definitely needed a bit of TLC that. But we can do that. Also got a Stella Italia Exo saddle on there. I love this thing. It's got stitching on it, but it's looking a bit tired. I think I can really clean that up and make it look really good. The bars are nice and narrow. They're like little 38s. Loving that, keeping those. Although the bar tape is absolutely minging, and this little cat-eye computer looks like it came in with some cornflakes in like 1992. I think we'll get rid of that, because the way it's like, the cable is like zip tied on and stuff. It just looks pants. So I don't think we'll have a computer on this bike. Let me just check what the headset's doing. Headset is good. Well, it's not got play in it, but we'll see what it's like with the bearings inside it once we take it apart in the workshop. So that's where we're going to go now, so we can start the process of restoring this beast. Got the frame in the workshop, and the first thing I'm going to do is just inspect it. I can see it better with the light in here now. And when you buy an alloy frame or a steel frame, it's always worth going over it and first just checking if there's any significant damage, things like dents or where areas where there's been corrosion and significant rust. A little bit of surface rust is often nothing to be worried about, but because steel bikes do corrode, if something is badly rusted through on chainstays or lugs have come loose, it could be a really bad sign and maybe something to walk away from, because there are plenty others out there that are like this, that are structurally sound. The other thing with bikes that are made from metal is that they can be bent in the frames. So this one, we've checked it and it is straight. But as I said, they can be bent. If a frame is bent, it again is probably worth walking away from, because there are plenty of others that are straight, especially if it's aluminium. Whereas steel frames can be bent back into shape, but again, just be aware that that's going to be a bit of hassle and extra cost if you're going to do that. And there are plenty that are straight that are out there. So I'd probably just go for one of those, anything for an easy life, unless it is something particularly special. If you want to know how to check if a frame is straight, it's pretty easy. You can tie some string around the head tube and then on either dropout each side, and then simply measure the distance of that string either side of the seat tube as a quick check. John Cannings has actually shown this in an excellent video before. What you're looking for is the distance from the central seat tube to either side of the string to be the same on both sides. Right, now what I'm going to do is start stripping this bike and taking all the components off, because in order to redo the paint and restore that, which I'm very excited about, the frame is going to have to be completely stripped, and that will also give us an opportunity to clean a bunch of the parts and sort them out. First thing I'm doing though is removing this ghastly bar tape, which is absolutely rank. The other thing is, it's very good to always change the bar tape, because people sweat into it and salt gathers, and you can often get corrosion of the handlebar. It also gives you an opportunity to check the handlebar and check that that too is not bent. This bar tape is gross. Don't think the bar tape is 38 years old, but maybe it's, I mean, it could be 20 years old. These shifter hoods are absolutely rank as well. I think I might get some new ones of these. I mean, this looks like it's got mold on them, but I'll get it in the ultrasonic cleaner first and see what that does to it. I mean, look at this. You've got like a little sandwich tie on the bike here, holding this cable in place. It's so pants. That is coming off, and we'll get these zip ties off as well. Now, another good thing to do is to always just to check the wheels are true when you buy any bike, not retro ones, all bikes. And the simple way to do this is to just spin the wheels and just check how they're tracking against the brake blocks. And you'll see if the wheel is true. If it's true, then it'll spin perfectly and the distance between the wheel rim and the brake block won't change. But as is the case with this wheel is wonky. It's out of true, and you can see it looks like it's wobbling slightly. We'll check the rear one as well. Yep, now this one is also a little bit wonky. So this is something that can be fixed, because we can get a spoke key on these spokes, and then we can just true the wheel slightly, and hopefully it'll be in good nick and it'll be all right once we've cleaned it. As for the bearings, I can completely strip those. On these old Shimano hubs, they have cup and cone bearings, which mean we can just take them apart. We can put fresh ball bearings inside and some fresh grease, pack them in, seal it up, and well, they should be really good again. I'm just going to take all the brakes off. The brake calipers might be restorable and reusable. I'll see how good they come out of the ultrasonic cleaner. The cables, I'm just cutting them all to take everything off because I'm going to completely redo the cables, the inners and the outers. Cables are an inexpensive part, and I would always recommend that you swap them out when you are restoring a bike. Handlebars, I can now see, taking the bar tape off, are Tiogas, made in Japan, lightweight alloy. They look like they're in good nick. They're definitely straight and no corrosion, which is a welcome surprise. We'll pull this cable out of here. That's been in there a while, that has. So I think what Bottecchia are most well known for is probably the '89 Tour de France, because it was then that they were ridden by Greg LeMond, who won the closest tour in history against Laurent Fignon, and he was on the Bottecchia team. But it's quite interesting. I think people might forget that the reason why he was on the Bottecchia team, which was a smaller team at the time, was because no other team wanted to risk having him, because he'd just come back to cycling, having recovered from being shot, and it was seen as a big risk. Would he ever be able to perform again? A bit like a sort of modern day Chris Froome. You know, he had a really bad accident, lost a lot of blood, and so yeah, he ended up riding for Bottecchia. Look at that. Can't wait to get that in the ultrasonic cleaner. Oh, it's bottom bracket spin test time. Square taper bottom bracket on this. Just bomb-proof, aren't they? Generally pretty good. I mean, this is really old. It clearly hasn't had much TLC, so let's see where we're currently at. Don't make them like they used to, do they? There's no fancy ceramic bearings in there, and it spins mega. I'm going to take off the chain set. Now to do that I need a 14mm on either side. Hopefully it's not on super tight. Normally you just push against the crank arm. Yep, and we're good. That's coming out and that is extracted. There's that first bit off there, which is good. Go to the other side. So I'm going to take the rear mech off and the chain set, and I'm going to clean these up in the ultrasonic cleaner because I think that, well, they work. They're in decent nick, and I reckon I can get a bit of money for them. Probably not much, but it's beer tokens, or it's money that can go towards me buying other bits and restoring the bike and getting the bits that I do want to put on it that are period correct. Also, you can see here, classic of bikes of this age, it doesn't have a mech hanger like modern bikes do on carbon bikes. Instead, it's integrated into the frame there. First, we're just going to take these pedals off. Again, not period correct, but they're double-sided time mountain bike SPD style pedals. Again, I reckon I can sell those and get a bit of money that I can put towards the restoration, and they've come off nice and easily, which well, I was sort of half expecting they'd be seized on. I'll get those cleaned up as well. Right, now to remove the crankset, we need this tool, which is the CP22. So it's a square taper crankset tool, and then this screws in here, and you do it on both sides. Now I'm going to remove the square taper bottom bracket. Been looking forward to doing this, but this bottom bracket is spinning really well. I can't wait to see what the bearings look like in it once we take it out. But to do that, we're going to use this square taper bottom bracket tool. So this is just standard wrench, but it has this sort of square taper attachment head that just goes on the top of it. So on the non-drive side, we'll do that first. You can do either non-drive side or drive side first, depending on your preference. But on the non-drive side, I'm going to push down counterclockwise. So with the non-drive side loosened off, it's now coming out. I'm going to just crack well, loosen the drive side. So again, getting the tool on here is sort of in line with the down tube and pushing down so that it's clockwise on the drive side. Scratch what I just said, because interesting thing, Italian frame, it has an Italian threaded bottom bracket. So normally on an English threaded square taper, pushing down here clockwise on the drive side would loosen it, but it's the opposite, being Italian. Same as modern Italian bottom brackets. So actually I was just tightening it. I've got to push it anti-clockwise in order to take out the drive side. It's good to know that some things never change. Look at that. Sealed Shimano cartridge unit. Still, it's covered in a bit of exterior rust and dirt, but still going well. Good quality bit, that. Just make sure we get the shifters off now. Dead easy to take these off. You just need a flathead screwdriver. We'll get these in the ultrasonic cleaner as well. Just going to remove the quill stem. There she is. Right, now let's take off the headset and we can have a look at the bearings. For these kinds of old quill headsets, just use 2 cone spanners, which are both 32mm. Honestly, butterfingers. Oh yeah, look at that. So here you can see we've got the lower headset bearing down here, which is on there, and you can see it's got a race on there and then the little ball bearings inside it. I mean, it actually does feel all right, the headset bearing on this, and that grease is still a nice colour. You can see it's not black. And the same on the top headset bearing as well. It's decent, and it felt decent when I was turning it. It wasn't noisy, gravelly, and it was smooth, and it was nice, and it was tight. I reckon these headset bearings are all right. So I'm probably going to reuse them. I'll give them a clean in the ultrasonic cleaner and then bang them back on. But I think they're pretty good. Some fresh grease. You can just replace those. And in some cases, I have seen people who just don't even use a race. And what they do is just pack the whole headset just full of loose bearings and some nice thick grease, and then it's good to go. But yeah, I'm happy with that. So you can see that one there. You can take that off. You can pop the little balls out of the race, but we'll keep hold of both of those. Let's try and get this seat poster. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Look at that penetrating spray. It's got all the way in. It's done its job. There's a fair bit of rust though I can see on this seat pin. And we're off. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I mean, this guy has had this bike a long time. I wonder how long that seat post has been in there and not moved. I've got some bits out the ultrasonic cleaner and I just really wanted to show you this because it's so satisfying when you put in like a really grubby part that's got like decades of crud on it, and then what they can do is just amazing. And look at the seat pin. It's still got a few scratches on it from where it's been in and out the frame, but it's looking really good. I reckon I can actually get a bit of wire wool on there and just polish some of those scratches out a little bit. But I mean, that's looking really good, isn't it? And then the derailleurs, which as I said aren't period correct, so I'm going to change those. But the way that they've come up, I reckon I'll be able to get a few quid for those now. Look at this Dior derailleur. I mean, it looks fantastic the way it's come out. And I completely took apart the bushings and the bearings. Look at that. Spinning nice. Look at that. So with the headset cups out, I'm gonna get those in the ultrasonic cleaner as well. Get those nice and, well, as good as new. They'll come up really nice. We're now ready to get this painted. So rather than me ham-fist it and show you a sort of bodged way to paint a bike, we're gonna learn from a master how to do this properly, but in a way that you could do it at home with rattle cans. And to do that, we're gonna go see Ollie from Fat Creations, who is like Master Yoda of painting bikes. So if you want to see that, it is going to be amazing, and a masterclass in how to paint your bike at home, then, well, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going there next week to do it. So hopefully in a couple of weeks, we'll have the video out showing exactly how to do it. I'm really excited to do this because, you know, things like, for me, this is the bike equivalent of a classic car, and classic cars, are really desirable, and they've become really expensive because of that, and there's not many of them around. But I feel that bikes, I don't know, people haven't tapped onto this yet, and there's loads of really amazing vintage bikes out there that go for hardly any money at all. I'd say that what I paid for this is more of the expensive end at 190 quid, and I've seen other ones that spring up that are around, you know, 40, 50 pounds, dollars, that sort of thing that you can get. So there really is a lot of treasure out there. So, well, I look forward to continuing this journey. I hope you're enjoying it so far, and I hope I see you for the next part. I'm going to go now. Love you. Bye.